Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining CleanFund's first PACE Insights Live webinar series. This installment will be on the innovative financing product, SolarPACE. My name is Danny Roberts. I'm on the business development team at CleanFund, and I will be your host for this series. Just a few housekeeping items to kick it off. This discussion will be about 18 to 20 minutes, including a 5 to 10 minute Q&A session at the end. If you think of a question throughout the webinar, please use the questions bar in your chat window to type it, and I'll collect those at the end and present them to our presenters today. Any questions that aren't addressed, we will be sure to follow up after this webinar series and get those answers to you as quickly as possible. Lastly, a follow-up email will be sent to each of you that will include a PDF of the slides that we're going to go over so you can refer back to them at your convenience. Today, I'm very excited to introduce to you our two presenters, Brandon Deno and Bruce Chandler, two solar experts and lifetime solar aficionados. First up is Brandon. He's the VP of Solar at CleanFund, formerly the country manager for both AUO and BenQ Solar. Brandon has over 9 years of solar experience and is responsible for over 100 megawatts in solar system and component sales. Aside from solar, one can learn a thing or two about basketball from this guy. Bruce is a Senior Business Development Director at CleanFund, formerly with Zep Solar, SolarBridge, and Sunlink. Bruce has over 7 years of solar experience. And if you ever want to see how a seasoned paddleboarder handles waves, Bruce is your go-to. So without further ado, Brandon, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Danny. That's a nice bounce pass. And thank you to all the attendees today. It looks like we got a pretty good turnout, and we're excited to tell you about our great new SolarPACE financing product. First, though, I want to start off with a little bit of bad news. Unfortunately, as many people know, the commercial solar segment or industry is facing some challenges to growth. This is a chart from SIA and Green Tech Media that shows the growth in the commercial solar segment has been relatively flat and even down a little bit, especially compared to the residential and utility segments. If you look at the numbers from 2015 to 2014, I think we're down about 5% on the commercial solar installations, and the peak for commercial solar was back in 2013. So this is challenging. Utility and residential are seeing the same pricing dynamics as commercial. Prices for solar systems have come down quite a bit over the past few years. There are incentives in place. The federal investment tax credit is still rolling right along. But why is it that commercial solar is not seeing the growth of the other segments? At CleanFund, we believe that the problem is that there's just not sufficient adequate financing structures available to address commercial solar. I will run through a couple examples here of the ways you could purchase, or a property owner can purchase or finance solar. The first is a cash purchase. That's the only challenge there. It's great. The economics work out great. Best return for the property owner. But the problem is they need cash, and that's not always easy to come by. One of the most common ways of financing solar commercial systems is the power purchase agreement, or PPA. Unfortunately, PPAs have high credit standards. They also have pretty substantial restrictions on the size of the system. PPAs have complex contracts. Long-term commitments are required. The property owner needs to know that they're going to be in that property for a long period of time, because the PPA contract is pretty difficult to transfer to a new owner. And then the last negative on PPAs is the overall economics are really just barely compelling. It's not, all the tax incentives are going to a third-party owner who shares kind of just what's needed to be shared with the property owner to make the deal pencil. Another common way of financing commercial solar are leases. So there are capital leases and operating leases available. While the credit requirements for leases are not as high as PPAs, they're still significant. And leases also have size restrictions. The biggest challenge, though, with leases is that the cash flows are often negative in the early years because they have a shorter term. And then in addition, there are balloon payments required at the end of many lease structures so that the property owner can own the system at the end. So the cash flows don't look great for leases. I'll mention bank loans as well. These really aren't designed for commercial solar financing, but they are used. They typically have a short term, maybe 7 to 10 years. There's interest rate risk there because you need to refinance at the end of that term or come up with a balloon payment. Also, because the term is so short, the cash flows are typically negative for bank loans as well. So none of these structures are really ideal for commercial solar financing niches, but they're not ideal. In addition, a high percentage, most commercial properties are actually leased. So there's a tenant and a landlord in these properties, and none of these structures really address that scenario, the split incentives between the property owner and the tenant. Now, though, let's make the news a little bit more positive. We have some good news to share. CleanFund has created our SolarPACE financing product. We've looked at some of the challenges with commercial solar financing, and we've addressed those needs. We've combined that with a financing framework that's based on PACE, and we've called the product SolarPACE. I will tell you more about SolarPACE in a minute, but first, I want to let you guys know a little bit about CleanFund and PACE financing. Our full business name is CleanFund Commercial PACE Capital. That tells you all you need to know about what the focus of our business is. We were founded in 2009 by some of the pioneers in PACE financing. We have a 100% focus on commercial PACE. We have a team of experienced structured finance, real estate, banking, construction, and solar energy professionals. We have a nationwide track record of originating, underwriting, and actually closing PACE financing deals, including recently the largest commercial PACE financing transaction ever, an $8.5 million project in Connecticut. It's also important to point out that CleanFund is a direct provider of capital. We're not a broker or middleman. It's actually our money that we put to work on these projects, so that helps us out. It helps our partners and clients out quite a bit in the underwriting process. We have much more visibility and clarity on what kind of deals we can get done. We can control the timeline and the process much better by being a direct capital provider. And last thing to point out, we have nationwide coverage, and our headquarters is in Sausalito in the San Francisco Bay Area. It looks like most of the attendees today are from the solar industry. So most of you have probably all heard of PACE financing. It's not new, although the SolarPACE product is new. But just in case you haven't heard of PACE, let's go through some of the basics. PACE actually stands for Property Assessed Clean Energy. It is a legal framework that's been set up for energy efficiency and renewable energy project financing through property tax assessments. And the repayment for these financing is made via the property owner's annual property tax bill. Because this is a public-private type of partnership and structure, the PACE financing only applies for projects and measures that are for the public good, so that would reduce the environmental impact of a property. Most PACE structures and programs use private capital, and that needs to be run through a local municipality that's going to collect the property tax payments. There's really minimal fiscal impact to municipalities, other than the positives of having jobs created in their community. But from an administrative standpoint, they're just collecting the PACE financing payments along with the annual property tax bill. PACE has recently seen strong growth across the U.S. Now 33 states in the District of Columbia have PACE financing enabled. Within those locations, there are 44 active PACE programs. And we just had good news this week that Massachusetts now has approved legislation for PACE, and the next steps will be implementing programs there in that state. Now I want to transition back to SolarPACE. Again, this is a product that CleanFund has created specifically to finance solar on commercial and nonprofit properties. We can solve most of the commercial credit issues that appear with the other types of commercial solar financing. And really we can do this because our security is not the credit of the property owner, but really it's the property itself. So we look at the value of the property when we make our credit decisions. This opens up a huge swath of the potential commercial solar market. Our financing is available for projects down to $100,000 or approximately 30 kilowatt solar projects and above. And that that does widen the market as well, because power purchase agreements and leases have a more limited or higher minimum size requirements. We have added flexible options to utilize the solar tax credits. We have an option for property owners to pay down the financing with the ITC. We have a power purchase agreement structure we can bring in. So we've added that to kind of the standard PACE financing to make SolarPACE a unique product. We have terms that can maximize the cash flow. We'll talk more about that shortly. And our product itself is supported by a team of not only PACE financing experts, but of solar experts. So we believe we understand the solar contractor's business and can help them move projects forward. This next diagram shows how solar PACE financing works for property owners. After the financing is closed, we can follow the green circles here to see the steps and the impact of the property owner. So first is the system gets installed by the local solar contractor. Then CleanFund issues a payment to that contractor. Then usually the property owner will start seeing utility bill savings immediately, of course. Will get tax incentives usually before they have to make their first annual property tax payment. This is a really cool, significant feature of PACE financing. There's a lag between when they install the system and start seeing the savings and actually make their first payment through their annual property taxes. I want to list out several of the key features of solar PACE financing. I mentioned earlier that we have terms that can maximize cash flows. We can actually go out to 30 years, which matches the life of a solar PV system and allows us to deliver great cash flows to a property owner. I also mentioned that our credit decisions are based on the property value and not on the credit of the property owner. This, again, opens up a huge market. We can basically look at any property that has good inherent value, and we're not focused on the who owns that building or the credit. Another unique feature of solar PACE financing is that the financing itself stays with the building and transfers to a new owner if the property is sold. And this transfer is automatic. Whoever comes in and buys the property will start paying the annual property taxes, and they will pay back the solar PACE financing as well as receive the positive benefits of lower utility bills. We can also finance roofing and storage alongside our solar PACE financing projects. This roofing and storage are more and more being, of course, roofing has always been, but storage more and more being installed side by side with solar projects. And with our solar PACE financing, we can cover all that just in one financing contract. That's a great benefit. A few more features. We've designed our financing to deliver positive cash flows. Again, the long term is what really makes that happen. These positive cash flows usually appear before you even factor in the solar tax incentives. So a property owner will save money out of the gate because their savings are greater than their annual payment, and then they get additional benefit by the solar tax incentives, and the investment tax credit and depreciation, of course. We have added an option or a feature to our product that allows the property owner to pay down the financing with their ITC credit. So they would, before the end of the second year after the installation, they could turn around and pay us that 30% tax credit. We will re-amortize the financing, and then that will lower their payments going forward and improve their cash flows. We also have an option to provide tax equity to a nonprofit or profit challenge business, does not have a tax appetite, with a prepaid PPA. So we have a structure that for PACE financing that works well with a prepaid PPA, and that is available to help certain segments of the market. And again, we solved this split incentive problem, which is a challenge of other financing methods. With solar PACE, the tenant of a leased property typically pays the pass-through property tax bills and also pays the utility bills. With PACE financing, that tenant is going to pay the solar PACE financing, and he's also going to receive the benefit with lower utility bills. And then the property owner gets the tax incentives, the solar tax incentives. So there's benefit for both the tenant and the property owner with solar PACE. This chart lists out several of the advantages and comparison points of solar PACE versus the common ways to finance a commercial solar system. Basically, you get a quick snapshot here. You can see we've picked all the features of the different financing methods, and we have combined all that into solar PACE, and we've even added a few that are only available with our product. I'll just mention those. The tenant pass-through feature, where the tenant can pay for the PACE financing and receive the benefit. There's flexibility to reduce the annual payments by paying down the ITC. We can finance non-solar property improvements alongside the solar project. And then there's this typical lag of 6 to 18 months of savings before the first payment is made by the property owner. And that's due to the timing of the property tax roll cutoff date. That's what influences that. Next, I want to show you an example of a real project that we done in San Jose, California. This project recently closed. It was a 200 kilowatt system. One way to think about SolarPACE financing is the property owner currently has 3 bills, and we're going to adjust those 3 bills that they're already paying. We're not adding a new bill. We're just going to make adjustments to the 3 bills they're currently paying. The first bill is the property tax bill. With SolarPACE, that property tax bill is going to go up. It's going to increase. The second bill is the utility bill. That is going to go down because they're installing solar. They're going to save money on their electricity bill. And the third bill is the income tax bill. That bill is also going to go down. So here, for this customer, we're showing an example of the cash flows over the next 5 years. I think most business owners can relate to that time horizon versus, a 20 or 30-year financing. This shows the immediate impact to somebody's business. So for this customer, they're going to install this 200 kilowatt system. Their property tax bill over the next 5 years, in total, in sum, is going to go up $200,000. But their utility bill goes down by $220,000. So they're pocketing $20,000 there, just from an operational standpoint. In addition, over the next 5 years, they're going to see significant income tax bill reductions with the solar investment tax credit and depreciation. The total of that is $320,000. So for this example, this property owner is going to save, well, not really save, they're going to have $340,000 cash put in their pocket, essentially. So this is really how we sell SolarPACE financing. It's really all about the cash flows and accelerating those cash flows for the property owner. At the end of this 5-year term, though, the property owner is still going to save money. On average, at year 6, they're going to actually save 14% on their electric bill versus their property tax bill. And as we know in solar, savings are going to increase every year as utility rates go up and the SolarPACE financing is fixed. It's a fixed annual payment for every year of the term. One other point, another way to look at SolarPACE financing is what's the LCOE, or what would this be for a PPA? And if you take the amount of the total payments for SolarPACE and divide that by the production, you come up with an effective PPA or utility rate of 11.2 cents a kilowatt hour. And we think that's a very, very competitive retail rate when you think about it fixed for 30 years. And just some assumptions that we made for this, or the details of this system, was a 200 kilowatt system. It was installed at $260 a watt, and they are currently paying 15 cents a kilowatt hour for electricity, and we did use a 30-year term. So the next steps in working with CleanFund, we really treat our approach to doing business as a partnership with our channel partners, solar contractors, solar developers. We work closely with those partners to engage with their clients to help explain how SolarPACE works and PACE financing in general works. We model the economics on a customized basis for every project. So we'll take some information on each project and we'll turn that around to a customized proposal. Maybe we need to use a longer term for better cash flows. Maybe we need to bring the ITC paydown feature. Maybe we need to have a PPA involved. Whatever the case, we'll look at each project individually and model the best economics for each project. And on those models or those proposals, we have a really fast turnaround. We understand that our channel partners are busy working on multiple projects, and they don't want us to hold up or delay anything. So usually we turn around our proposals in less than 24 hours, and if not, the same day. Once a property owner has agreed to move ahead with SolarPACE financing, CleanFund manages all aspects of the process going forward, including ordering appraisals for property valuation, working with their existing lender or mortgage holder to make sure that that bank is aware of the PACE financing, and collecting all the documentation that's required to actually close the deal. And then once the deal is closed, we do have construction financing for our partners, for installers. We can release milestone payments for engineering and installation progress, ordering the materials and things like that as the project progresses. And we also just recently announced, just last week actually, announced a partnership with the largest solar products distributor in the U.S., and that partnership will help us reduce credit line concerns especially for larger projects. It really helps smooth out the cash flows there. A little bit more detail on working with CleanFund. There are really 3 simple steps. First, we take a proposal request. We just need 5 or 6 pieces of basic solar project information, And again, we can turn around a model or proposal usually within 24 hours. If the customer is interested and likes the economics and the structure for SolarPACE, then they'll submit an application. That's just a one-page application. And then we start with the full underwriting of the project. And typically what we see from the application to closing with these solar projects, if it's a pretty simple, straightforward project, closing can occur within 1 to 2 months from when we receive that application. Okay, so I started off with bad news, some good news, and now even better news. The commercial solar segment is expected to grow. According to SIA and Green Tech Media, it looks like 2016 will be an up year, and that will continue to grow over the next few years as system prices continue to come down and innovative structures like PACE financing come into place to help address a more broader market. And last slide I want to present is something to really kind of bring this home and for any solar contractors, installers, developers on this call to think about what type of projects SolarPACE might be a good fit for. We think that it can work for almost any project. However, here are a few of the specific types of customers and projects that might be even the best or perfect fit for SolarPACE. The first is non-investment grade credits. Second are customers who want the solar tax incentives, but maybe solar customers that don't want to pay cash. They want those tax incentives, but they don't want or don't have the ability to pay cash. Any project over 30 kilowatts. In addition to customers with tax incentives, nonprofits work very well with our SolarPACE PPA product. Leased properties, because we can solve the split incentive issue, so tenants and property owners both benefit. In addition, we're seeing a lot of business and inquiries from foreign-owned companies, properties that are owned by foreign-owned businesses. And the reason there is because the credit requirements are a little bit higher or a little trickier for those entities. So SolarPACE can work well there. And then also properties that might be sold in the next 5 years. I think solar developers, I used to develop solar projects myself. The common feedback is, oh, we're going to sell the property soon, so I don't want to move ahead with a solar project. However, with SolarPACE and PACE financing, they might as well do the project now because that finance, they're going to start saving money. They're going to see tax incentives and tax benefits. And when they sell the property, the new owner is going to come in and start paying for the financing and see the benefits as well. Okay, so with that, I want to pass the basketball back to Danny and Bruce to cover some questions and answers.
Thank you, Brandon, for that awesome presentation. Very informative. We appreciate your time. As Brandon mentioned, now going to open up the floor to any questions from the field that we have. First question, Bruce, how do I become a registered contractor?
Great question, Danny. So it's pretty easy. All you need to do to work with CleanFund is to submit a request for proposal, which requires 5 pieces of simple information regarding the system specifications for your solar system, and that information is all held confidentially by CleanFund.
Thank you, Bruce. Second question is, can batteries be sold as part of the SolarPACE program?
Yes, we can finance batteries as part of the entire storage system as part of the solar financing project.
Great, thanks, Bruce. Third question, what are your fees and interest rates generally?
So it's important to note that interest rates are really just one component of financing. It's likely that what the customer is more interested in is their total payment and also flexibility in terms, which SolarPACE does offer. Our interest rates are generally in the 5.5% to 6.5% range, contingent on the project size.
Got it. Thank you, Bruce. And what is your coverage area? Where can CleanFund fund projects?
Yeah, more positive news. CleanFund can fund projects anywhere in the U.S. that there's an active PACE program. PACE, as most people know, is widely available in California and in some other states, I believe now 33 states in all. Not all PACE-enabled states are good solar states, though, something to keep in mind.
Gotcha. Is CleanFund willing to share a financial model that shows the calculations that were gone over in the presentation on the economic assumptions that went into those calcs?
Yeah, absolutely. We handle every model or every project individually, and we're happy to share. We'll give you a complete set of numbers that a contractor developer can present to your customer. We'll also give you the underlying numbers behind those, including, for instance, the interest rate or any fees that apply.
Gotcha. And how long does it take to get financing? I know Brandon went over this a bit, but can you elaborate, Bruce?
Yeah, typically on a typical straightforward solar deal, about 30 to 60 days, depending on the complexity. It could be slightly longer, but that's our general timeline.
And does CleanFund have any parameters with regard to the maximum financing amount on a property or project?
Yeah, sort of our maximum financing amount is $25 million. Most solar projects are going to come in underneath that, so that's generally not a concern for us.
Gotcha. And I know there's a whole piece around, lender acknowledgement. Can you speak a little bit about that? How does CleanFund deal with it?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the lender acknowledgments handled by CleanFund, we've done projects with multiple banks, and we also work early in the process with both the property owner and the bank on the benefits of PACE to make sure that we're able to get the acknowledgement. One of the benefits of working with us is that we actually have a dedicated transaction team with significant banking experience, and we found that this really helps in the conversation with the financial institutions.
Gotcha. Thanks, Bruce. I think that those are all the questions that we have from the field. For any of those that we might have missed or that are still coming in, we will, as I said in the beginning, follow up with you guys directly to get those answered. And following this presentation, we'll also send a PDF of the slides so you have that content in front of you at your convenience. So thank you again for joining this first installment of PACE Insights Live, bringing you all of the industry updates around PACE. Hope you enjoyed the show, and we look forward to connecting with you on the next one. Thanks, everybody.